There's a force pulling your strings every second of every day. It's not your intelligence, it's not your goals, it's not even your discipline. It's something far more primal. Something older than civilization, older than language. Every decision you've made, every risk you took, every comfort you avoided, every dream you chased or let rot was filtered through one invisible question. Will this bring me pleasure, or will this help me escape pain? This is the pain versus pleasure principle. And until you understand it, you'll never fully understand yourself. Look closely. Why do some people wake up at 4 a.m. to work on their craft, while others hit snooze until noon paralyzed by procrastination? Why do some people endure failure after failure chasing a dream, while others settle for a life they quietly resent? It's not about willpower, it's about leverage. You see, the mind doesn't seek truth. It doesn't even seek growth. It seeks comfort. And in every moment, it makes micro-calculations about what will hurt less and feel better. Even when we sabotage ourselves, we do it because on some twisted level, it feels safer than the pain of change. This isn't weakness, this is wiring. Sigmund Freud once said, "People are motivated by two core drives, the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. But here's the catch, we will do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure." That's why people stay in bad relationships, toxic jobs, or mediocre lives. The pain of staying is familiar. The pain of leaving is unknown, so we adapt, we rationalize, we numb ourselves. But the truth is, every time you choose comfort over growth, you're letting the fear of pain dictate your future. Now think back, when did you make a massive change in your life? Maybe it was quitting a job, cutting off a draining friend, hitting the gym for real, or finally launching that project. What triggered it? It probably wasn't motivation, it was disgust, it was rock bottom. It was when the pain of staying the same finally became greater than the pain of changing. That's when people move, not when they're inspired, when they're fed up. So how do you use this principle instead of being used by it? You flip the script, you associate massive pain to inaction, and you associate massive pleasure to change. This is what the most driven people on the planet do, consciously or not. They mentally link laziness with humiliation. They associate quitting with regret so deep it haunts them. They rewire their mind to fear wasted potential more than they fear failure, and that fear, ironically, is what fuels them. The pain versus pleasure principle is not just about psychology, it's about strategy. If you want to finally break through the invisible wall that's holding you back, you need to confront the emotional payoff you're secretly getting from staying stuck. Yes, there's a payoff. Every bad habit gives you something: comfort, distraction, an excuse. But once you expose that trade, once you say, "This junk food gives me a temporary escape from my own self-loathing," or "This laziness protects me from risking rejection," then the illusion starts to crack. And that's when real transformation begins. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people aren't lazy. They're just experts at avoiding pain. And the world is more than happy to help you do it. Dopamine on demand, entertainment everywhere. Shortcuts, hacks, distractions. But all of it comes with a cost. Because every time you avoid discomfort, you're training your brain to fear it more. And the more you fear discomfort, the smaller your life becomes, until you're boxed into a routine that numbs you but never satisfies you. The ones who escape this trap aren't superhuman. They've just flipped the association. They've made comfort painful and discomfort powerful. They know that short-term pain leads to long-term pride, while short-term pleasure leads to long-term emptiness. They know that delayed gratification isn't about suffering. It's about selecting your suffering. You can suffer now and thrive later, or indulge now and regret forever. But there is no neutral. You're always trading one pain for another. So ask yourself, what pain are you avoiding right now? What decision are you postponing because it feels uncomfortable, and how much is that avoidance really costing you? What dream is dying in the name of temporary relief? What identity are you building by repeatedly choosing ease over evolution? In the second part, we'll break down how to reprogram your brain using this principle. How to harness emotional leverage, weaponize discomfort, and make pain your ally instead of your enemy. Because once you understand how to use pain and pleasure not as enemies but as tools, you become unstoppable. Not because you don't feel fear, but because you've learned to use it. Your mind already knows how to move mountains. It just needs a reason to try. And the pain versus pleasure principle might be the spark that finally lights that fire. Most people think motivation comes from discipline or desire. But the truth is, motivation is a byproduct, an effect, not a cause. If you're struggling to take action, it's not because you're lazy, it's because your brain has linked more pain to the action than to the consequences of not acting. And until you reverse that equation, nothing changes. The gym won't become a habit. That difficult conversation won't happen. That dream you keep putting off will stay buried. This is where the real power of the pain versus pleasure principle comes into play. You can manipulate it. Think of your brain as a living algorithm, constantly assigning values to pain and pleasure based on your past experiences, beliefs, and emotions. The secret: you can hack those values. You can rewire your emotional associations so that what once felt painful becomes thrilling, and what once felt comfortable becomes suffocating. You don't need to wait for rock bottom. You can simulate it. Here's how it works. Instead of trying to force yourself to do something you hate, you shift the emotional meaning behind it. Let's say you've been avoiding starting a business. Your mind links it to stress, risk, overwhelm. So, of course, you procrastinate. But what if you start visualizing the pain of staying broke for the next 10 years? What if you imagine watching someone else live your dream because you were too afraid to try? What if you tie the idea of inaction to humiliation, failure, regret? Suddenly, the pain of not acting becomes far greater than the fear of acting, and that's when the switch flips. This isn't positive thinking. This is emotional leverage, and it's what elite performers use every day. They don't rely on willpower. They set up mental traps so that failing to act becomes emotionally unbearable. They burn the boats. They trap themselves into growth. The pain of slipping backward becomes greater than the discomfort of moving forward. Pain is no longer your enemy. It becomes your coach. It tells you where you're weak. It shows you what you're avoiding. And if you're brave enough to listen, it will drive you to evolve. But most people numb pain instead of using it. They scroll, they binge, they distract. But in doing so, they give up the one force that could have made them powerful. So how do you begin rewiring your mind using this principle? Step 1. Write down the thing you're avoiding. Be brutally honest, whether it's starting a new habit, ending a toxic relationship, or facing a fear. Put it on paper. Step 2. List the long-term pain of not doing it. Don't just think about it, feel it. Imagine the years wasted, the regret, the emotional decay. Make it vivid, detailed, brutal. Your mind must believe that inaction equals suffering. Step 3. List the long-term pleasure of doing it. Again, don't just intellectualize it. Embody it. Picture yourself, free, fulfilled, strong. Make it real. Make it inescapable. Now here's the key. Repeat this process every day, because repetition is the mother of change. You can't rewire emotional associations overnight, but over time the brain begins to adopt the new reality. The discomfort you once feared becomes the path you crave. The habit you once avoided becomes your identity, and the life you once only imagined starts to feel inevitable. But there's another layer to this, one most people never talk about. It's not just about motivation, it's about identity. You see, every choice you make reinforces a story about who you are, and that story becomes the blueprint for your behavior. When you choose pain over pleasure in the service of growth, you tell yourself, I'm not fragile, I'm not weak, I'm not a victim of my emotions. You reinforce strength, you reinforce resilience, you reinforce the identity of someone who does hard things. And over time that identity becomes so strong that avoiding pain doesn't even feel like an option anymore. You begin to crave challenge, to seek discomfort, to chase fear because you've associated those things with becoming more. And that's the real shift. Not just doing hard things, but loving what they make of you. Now ask yourself again, what are you running from? What are you tolerating? What are you choosing by default because it's easy, safe, familiar? Understand this, the longer you choose short-term pleasure, the more long-term pain you inherit. But when you flip the switch, when you seek the discomfort that builds you, you unlock a version of yourself you've never met before. That version isn't scared of pain. That version uses pain like fuel. That version walks into fear and says, "Good now, I know I'm on the right path." 'Cause here's the truth. Most people never hear. The life you want is already built. It's already there on the other side of the pain you keep avoiding. And once you realize that everything changes, if this message woke something up inside you, remember, it's not just about understanding the pain versus pleasure principle. It's about using it, mastering it, and becoming the kind of person who no longer fears discomfort, but feeds off of it. Because the strongest minds, the ones who change the world, aren't driven by ease. They're driven by the fire of what they refuse to settle for. So don't run from the pain, make it your reason. And you'll become unstoppable.